everyone, this is Mike Smith. In this short series of videos, I'm going to discuss the idea of drip access or drip feed from a learning management system and making that drip feed more flexible to cater for a more sophisticated or more complex need on a website. And for this discussion, we're going to be using WordPress, the LearnDash LMS, LearnDash Learning Management System. We're going to combine it with the Groundhogg CRM, but the principles here should apply to any learning management system in combination with a CRM. So it could be a cloud-based service, or it could be another CRM. It could actually also be another learning management system, as long as these can be integrated in some way. But the reason I've chosen Groundhogg here is because it's got a couple of extensions, in particular content restriction, conditional logic, as well as obviously the LearnDash integration. So that's going to allow us to do some pretty cool things. Now, the course that I'm going to be working with is just a demonstration here called Flexible Drip Feed, and in that course we've got half a dozen lessons, and I'm just going to have a look at a couple of those lessons just to show you how this works. But this is the overview of what we're trying to achieve, and so let's get started. So let's just define more precisely what it is, in fact, that we are trying to achieve with our learning management system. So what we want to do is control the active status of the enrollment on a course, and in addition also control the date range to when someone is able to access the material on the course. We also may want to combine this with a product purchase, so it may be advantageous for us to combine this with WooCommerce. Even though the learning management system can take payments, it has its own payment gateway, but combining it with an e-commerce platform with a bit more capability may allow us to combine lessons as an offering with other material on our website, such as physical products or membership access or various other services such as bookings. Okay, so yes, the CRM may be able to enroll and unenroll as required, and that will help us with the commencement of courses and also with the expiry of courses. And if it's the CRM that's controlling this, that will be on an individual user basis. And that's important. It's very useful because often the expiry date or settings that apply to a course will apply to all the users enrolled in that course, and that can be a bit restrictive, so we might want to remove that restriction for us, give us a bit more flexibility. We also want the CRM to be able to control page and lesson access, again based on some set criteria, and what that might mean is that some of the lessons may only be for certain defined groups of people, or at the very least may not be available straight away. So learning management system can usually force people to go through the lessons in a set sequence, or random access, so they can jump around however they like. And a learning management system may have a drip feed function, but a CRM is going to have more flexibility. And that's what we want, flexibility, so that we can satisfy all the conceivable business cases. Okay, and also, as we mentioned, we may want to allow the CRM to give protected access to other content outside the learning management system. So for example, if they get to a particular lesson inside a course, that also triggers their ability to access other resources on the site. Let's just look at our expanded diagram a little bit there so we can see that a bit more clearly. So these member protected content are actually outside the learning management system. They're not LMS lessons. They may be pages or posts on the website. They may in fact be products, other products that become available when learners achieve or when learners reach these lessons, and also if they happen to be in those defined groups. So we're really looking for ultimate flexibility here. It could be, for example, that someone is going through this course but they're not able to access this particular lesson here because they're defined as group B, for example. So they'll go from the first lesson to this lesson. They won't even know about this lesson. And when they do get to this lesson, it allows them to potentially access some pages over here, as well as maybe product content. So and that could be another course. So this is going to give us a lot of flexibility. Okay, and also, of course, because we are talking about a CRM, which is usually email based, we're going to be able to send tailored emails at every stage if we want to. So let's just see how that might work. Okay, firstly, now let's just zoom out a little bit and see what happens to cause the person to be enrolled in the first place. And we're going to introduce the concept of a tag, which you may or may not be familiar with, but tags allow us to add a flag, and it's called a tag, to a user that indicates that they've gone through a particular gate, or they are of a particular category, or more specifically, they may have bought a particular product. So in this particular case, people become enrolled on a course by buying a product. Okay, and in the process of buying a product, the CRM detects that and applies a tag to them. So but that tag could be applied in a number of ways, not just by buying the product. In any case, what happens is that if they've got that tag, they will have access to the course, and the CRM through the tag will actually implement the enrollment in the course. Okay, so they're going to be coming into the course via a tag, access and notification by CRM tag. So it's not the learning management system that is triggering this, it's the CRM, it's taking control. And that's important and useful to be aware of, because the CRM is outside the learning management system. It sits a little bit above. Okay then, so with that tag we can add additional tags. So for example, let's just look at this in a bit more detail here. So having that tag takes them to this point, which is the enrollment. Okay, and in terms of the funnel in the CRM, the tag, which in this particular case is drip feed weekly start immediately, that tag is added to the user, and that enters them into this funnel, and then the funnel takes care of a number of actions. So for example, it applies another tag, in this case DF01. This tag DF01 gives them access to the very first lesson. Now let me show you how that works. It's important to remember that this tag system is a restriction that's placed on the lesson content, so that even though the person may be enrolled in the course, the learning management system thinks that they've got access to all the lessons within that course, but in fact there's another layer of content restriction which is controlled by the CRM here through content restriction here. Okay, so how that actually works, we're using this flexible drip feed course here. These are the lessons. Let's look at the first two lessons. This is demo lesson 1, which I've just titled DF01, just so that I can keep track of what tags are going to be required. Now what will be a little bit unfamiliar for most people is this extra meta box here, which is the content restriction. This is actually the action of the CRM, and that comes from that extension that I was showing here before, content restriction. Okay, so what happens then is that we enable content restriction for this lesson. This meta box is available on any WordPress custom post type, whether it's a a page or a post or a product, or in this case a lesson. And as you can see, there's a filtering rule here. In other words, they will need that tag in order to access this lesson. Now the CRM is going to give them that tag pretty much straight away, and that's fine. So they should be able to access the very first lesson straight away. If they don't have that tag, there's a redirect here which just has some instructions as to what to do. It's in this particular case, it could be a message that simply says, hey, listen, you don't yet have access to this page, but they will have access to the very first page because they get that tag immediately. And then a welcome email is sent, and that welcome email can be edited and to be very specifically tailored for this purpose, this course. So it's not a WordPress automatically sent email. It's not a learning management system generated email. It's an email generated by a CRM, which is a program specifically designed to send emails. So it's going to be providing all of the editing features that allow you to create really compelling emails. Okay, so that gets them to the first lesson, and they're on their way, and there's an email that goes out to them welcoming them, and we can, if we want, also make that email another item notification email to go to the administrator and the course leader. Okay, so now what happens after that? Okay, now in this diagram I'm only showing 4 lessons, and in our course we've got 6 lessons, but this is just to demonstrate the principle, right? So lesson number 1 simply requires that they have the very first tag df01. Lesson number 2, I'll scroll down to that meta box, requires that they have the tag df02 and also be a member in group A. All right, so that's 2 tags. Now how they got into group A is another process that's totally outside the learning management system, and that could be giving people access to this external to the LMS content, but within the WordPress website. As I mentioned before, it could be pages, posts, other custom post types, products, other courses, and so on. And membership to that group is simply having that tag, which could be through a bundle purchase, or it could be manual, or it could be in any number of ways. So this diagram shows, okay, so they've finished lesson 1, they're going to get their email, they would normally progress to lesson number 2. If they're in group A, they will have access to lesson number 2 as long as they've got the df02 tag, and when they get there they will also have access to all this other stuff. But how do they get the df02 tag? Let's look at that. Okay, well the tags are allocated by the CRM. Okay, so this is the funnel that they're in. They've progressed through df01, the email's been sent out, and this is what controls the applying of the second tag, df02. There's a delay timer here, and this delay timer is very flexible. It can be any number of minutes, hours, days, weeks, or months. Right, and in this case I've just simply created a 1-week delay timer, which means that it's effectively like a 1-week drip feed. So they get their first lesson straight away, a week later they get to the second lesson, a week later they get to the third lesson, and this is a very simple drip feed implemented by a CRM and rather than the learning management system. And as you can see, each one of these timers is individual. So for example, if I wanted to, I could set a delay of 1 week between lesson 1 and 2, and a delay of 1 day between lesson 2 and 3, and if I wanted to, a different time again there. between lesson 3 and 4. So it's totally flexible because each delay is individually programmed. If I wanted to, I could put a delay in here that is in fact a date timer rather than a delay timer. And a date timer allows me to select a calendar date and time for this next action to be taken, applying a tag. So we could have a course start on a particular date. The enrollments can happen earlier, but the actual course access doesn't happen until a particular date, and then from there on it could be 1 week delayed between lessons, or 1 day, or 1 hour, or if we wanted to, we could set this up so that some people could have immediate access to all the content, and some people would be subject to this drip feed, and some people could be subject to a different drip feed, which might be, so this one might be weekly and the other one might be daily, for example. So for example, you could have a course where people pay a premium fee to get more rapid access to all the content. Very, very flexible. Okay, I'll just remove that. And that flexibility simply comes from using a tool that is more suited to individualized attention. In this particular case, the individualized attention is applying a tag that gives access to restricted content, the lessons. But the individual content could also be the emails and a whole bunch of other actions as well. So this is really what I wanted to show, and that gives us the ability to achieve our goals that we set ourselves before, things like date range, more complex criteria that allows access to lesson content within a learning management system, which may in fact be in combination with membership outside the learning management system. And of course that means that even if the learning management system has a membership function, as LearnDash does, it has a groups function which is effectively a membership function, but that only works for content within the learning management system. What about pages and posts and other custom post types outside the learning management system but within the content management system? So that's why I recommend using a CRM rather than the learning management system itself to provide these functions. Okay, now just one other thing that I wanted to mention. As you can see, this red box here is labeled a key lesson, and because of my teaching background, this is actually quite important to me as a teacher, because when I'm teaching in a class or when I'm teaching online, I may be able to anticipate material that is a little bit more challenging for my learners than the other material. So here is a key lesson. It's a key lesson for some reason requiring special attention. And so what I can do is use the individualized email out here to flag when someone is about to encounter this material, and let the course leader know, and also let the learner know to say, for example, now your next lesson is blah blah, and if you have any problems, just be aware that the course instructor is there to help you. And in fact, the email notification sent to the course instructor may prompt them to actively contact the learner as well, depending on what they know about the learner. So this is a pretty important pedagogical advantage of having the flexibility that a CRM can give when added to a learning management system, because anticipating the challenge that a learner may have is far better than letting them encounter that material, get frustrated to the point where they may request help. And in fact, they may not request help even if they need it. So it's really useful for us to be able to preempt that challenging point in the course. It makes for a better user experience. And so it's really good use of the technology here to assist the teaching and the learning environment, giving a better outcome overall. Okay, so that was a brief overview of using a combination of a learning management system and a CRM to achieve something quite sophisticated and very useful for setting up a learning environment, and also useful in a business sense for offering more flexibility to the website owner to combine different offerings that they have, which will also benefit the user. And in this particular demonstration used WordPress, Groundhogg CRM and LearnDash LMS, but as I said before, the principles apply to any learning management system and any CRM that are sufficiently integrated as these two are. This one's got a direct integration down here, but as you can see, Groundhogg has lots of integrations, and there are other LMSs and CRM combinations that would allow this to happen. The idea is that we are able to create a flexible drip feed at the very least, using those tools: content restriction and membership, and a funnel that allows us to send emails and also take other actions. Now, you may notice there are some other steps in this funnel, and that's because there are some technical details that I haven't mentioned in this brief video. So if you try to implement this, you may find that there's a little bit more to this than I've been able to squeeze into this video, and so you may need a little bit of help from a developer. But they are certainly around, and this will at least give a website owner, a teacher or an instructor looking to use a learning management system, at least some background so that they can have an informed conversation with the website developer, ask the right questions, and ensure a better outcome for the entire web project. So this has been Mike Smith. Thanks very much for watching and listening.